Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about evaluating and translating expressions. So let's go ahead and take a look at some key terms we need to know. So here are some key vocabulary terms we need to know for translating. So they're words that talk about addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Are these the only terms that exist for these words? No, but these are a good foundation for us to get started with. So now let's put them to use in example A. Here in example A, it says translate the expressions, and we've got two expressions there. The first one says the quotient of 3 and the square root of a number. So when we're talking about quotient, we're talking about division. Of 3, we know that's the number 3. Of square root, we know that's the square root symbol. And of a number, we don't know that number. We can pick any variable that we want. I'm going to pick x, but you can pick whatever you'd like. So since we have a quotient, we're going to have a numerator and a denominator, something that's going to be divided by. The way that we're going to do this is the thing that we see first is going to be the numerator. So in this case, it says the quotient of 3. So 3 is going to be on top because that's what we see first. And then the square root of a number, so that's going to be the denominator. So square root of a number, the square root of x. Now the next one here is tricky in two ways. So it says the square of 5 less than a number. So we've got to go through and figure out the things we've got. So we got square. We know it's going to be multiplying it times itself. We've got 5 and we've got less than and less than a number. So we're going to go with x. Less than means that that is going to go to the back. So anytime that we see less than or more than, that means that thing is going to go to the back. So in this case, we've got 5 less than a number. So that's going to look like x minus 5 because again, that is going to go to the back. But we have squaring, and we have to square the whole thing. It says square of 5 less than a number. So to show that, we're going to put parentheses around the whole thing because we're squaring 5 less than a number, not just 5, not just the number, the whole thing, and then we'll put r squared here. Now let's take a look at the next example. Here in example B, we have two expressions again. They are very similar, but different. So the first one says the square root of the product of a number and 2. So hopefully we know that product means multiplication. A number 2 we know is the number 2. A number is going to be x in this case, and we have the square root symbol. So we want the square root of the product of 2 and a number. So we have to have 2 times x, and we're going to just write that as 2x. And then we want the square root of that, so the square root of 2x. Now on the other side, it says the product of the square root of 2 and a number. So in this case, they're talking about the product first, so multiplication, square root, we know the square root symbol, 2, the number 2, and a number x. So this time we're going to do the product of the square root of 2, so the square root of 2, and the product of a number, so multiply that times x. So notice the difference there. One is talking about the square root of the product, so we do the product inside the square root symbol, and on the other side it's talking about the product of a square root and a number, so we do the product first, or the square root first, then multiply it times the number. Now let's take a look at example C. So here we are in example C, and it's got a big long thing there that we're going to have to read through the pieces. So 3 times, so we're going to do 3 times something. The absolute value, so I'm going to need absolute value bars here, of 2 less than, so remember that's going to make that go to the back, so we're going to have 2 less than, so minus 2, and a number. So that's going to be our x, and increase by 5, so at the end there we're going to have a plus 5. So now let's put it all together. So we're going to do 3 times, so we're going to have 3 times the absolute value, so inside absolute value bars is going to be 2 less than a number, so x minus 2, close that absolute value bar, and then increase by 5 at the end is going to be plus 5. Now let's move on to the second half of these notes. We're going to be talking about evaluating. So here we're talking about evaluating, where we're going to substitute the number into the expression using parentheses, and then we're going to simplify. So in this case it says a equals 2, b equals 3, c equals 1. So I substitute in 2 for the a, 3 for the b, and 1 for c. Now, of course, this can't go any further because 2x and 3y can't be combined. They're not like terms, and 1 is a constant. It can't be combined, so this is as far as we can go. But we're going to substitute in for the numbers using parentheses, or substitute in for the variables using parentheses, and then we're going to simplify as much as we can. So let's go ahead and take a look at that in a few examples. So here we are at example D, and it says evaluate the expression if k is equal to 3/4. So we're going to start by substituting in, and it's very important that you substitute in using parentheses. If you don't, since we're raising it to the third power, we would accidentally move the third power to the entire thing as opposed to just the 3/4. So in this case, we've got 8/9, parentheses, 3/4, and then raise that to the third power. So our goal is to take the third power now to the numerator and the denominator so that we can simplify. So again, we've got 8/9 here. 3 to the third power is going to be 27. And we've got 3 to the fourth power, or 4 to the third power, which is going to be 64. All right, so now we need to multiply 8/9 times 27. You can do that a couple ways. You could use your Desmos calculator. I'm going to cross simplify before I multiply, so I know 8 goes into 8 one time. I know 8 goes into 64 8 times. 9 goes into 9 one time. 9 goes into 27 3 times. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 8 is 8 for an answer of 3/8. Now let's move on to the next example. Here we are at example E, and it says r is equal to -2, d is equal to 9, and we need to evaluate this expression. So the first thing that we need to do is substitute in using parentheses. So we've got 5, we've got -2, plus 2, parentheses, and then we've got parentheses 9, close parentheses, minus the cube root of 8. All right, so now we've got to follow our order of operations. So we're going to do the thing inside the parentheses first. So the cube root of 8, so that's the number that can be multiplied 3 times to give us 8. So that number is going to be 2. So we're going to write down everything else that we haven't done yet. So plus 2, we've got times 2, we've got 9 inside our parentheses still. Okay, minus, and then we said 2. All right, so now we've got to do again inside our parentheses. So our next step is going to be 9 minus 2 is 7. So we end up with 5, parentheses -2, plus 2 times 7. All right, then we're going to continue inside our parentheses there. So we've got to do 2 times 7, which is 14. So we end up with 5 times -2 plus 14. All right, then we're going to do 5 times -2, which is going to be -10. We've got -10 plus 14, and our final step is going to be -10 plus 14, which is going to be positive 4. So again, this is our expression. Again, you're going to substitute in using parentheses, and then follow the order of operations to simplify. Now let's take a look at the last example. All right, here we are at example F, where it says evaluate the expression of g is 1/2, b is 4, and n is equal to 7. So again, we're going to substitute in using parentheses, follow order of operations. We'll do everything on the top, everything on the bottom, and then we'll divide if possible. All right, so we've got on the top, we've got 4g, so 4 times 1/2, minus 2 squared. All over, we're going to have the cube root of 27. Minus 3, and then parentheses times 4, and then parentheses times 7. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to do everything on the top first, then everything on the bottom, and then we'll divide. So 4 times 1/2 is going to give us 2. So we're going to end up with 2 minus the 2 times 2, which is 4. So we end up with 2 minus 4 on top, and then we can write everything else that we haven't done on the bottom. So 3, the square root of 27, minus 3 times 4 times 7. All right, so 2 minus 4 is going to be -2. So we know on the top we've got -2, so we'll just write that up here, and we'll keep going. So now we're going to do the cube root of 27. So again, that's going to be what to the third power can give us 27, and that's going to be 3. So we're going to get 3 minus 3 times 4 times 7. So now we're going to do our multiplication. So we're going to do our 3 times 4 times 7, and 3 times 4 times 7 is 84. So then we end up with -2 over 3 minus 84. So then we're going to do 3 minus 84, which is going to give us -81. So we've got -81 on the bottom, -2 on the top. Now, -2 and -81, that can't be reduced, but we do have 2 negatives there. So 2 negatives are going to result in a positive. So we're going to end up with +2 over +81, and that's as small as we can make our fraction. So that is our simplified answer. That brings us to the end of this problem. It also brings us to the end of this set of notes and this video. If you like this video, go ahead and say thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and say sub, and we will catch you in the next one.